What are we talking about?
How to get the perfect body.
Practice.
4 secrets that you need to build the perfect relationship.
Practice. Oh, practice, man. Practice, man.
I think Mark Wahlberg is the perfect human being. He does more before 7 a.m. than most people do in a lifetime.
We talking about practice right now. I'm not shoving it aside, like it don't mean anything. It's easy to sum it up. I know that. But we talking about practice, man. We talking about practice. We talking about practice.
And they're all perfect shots. They're all perfect shots.
We have a lot of expressions in the English language.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
What are we talking about?
Where'd that come from?
Most all of us use them every day.
I don't even know what that means. No one knows what it means.
We just say them as if they really made sense.
I mean, how silly is that?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
What the f*** is he talking about?
Yo, what's good? You know what it is. You know who it is. It's me, Mario, and this is the Appraise the Phrase show, origins of everyday expressions. We're here to do 3 things: unveil the origin, confirm the meaning, and assess the value of common everyday phrases. 20's in the building with me. What's good, 20? How you feeling, big dog?
Oh, man, all good, bro. You know what? I live for this, so I'm more excited, man. It should be a great show. Should be a great show.
Yes. I'm feeling that, man. Anything special happening in your life, or are you pleased with the mundane?
You know what it is? It's not really pleased with the mundane, but it's just like a situation where it may sound cliche, man, but, just trying to control what I can control, and not really, dwelling on the things that I can't, man. Sometimes you kind of get stuck on that and kind of miss out the things that you can actually make work for your life. So I'm trying to do my best to kind of like just be in that mindset and control what I can control.
I heard that, brother. I can appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
That's what you know me, bro. I'm not a fluffer like that. That's just what I'm really really focusing on.
I was surprised that you even used the cliche, to be totally honest with you.
Hey, man. Sometimes you got to cliche them.
Sometimes
you got to
cliche. If you're not gonna do nothing else, you might have to cliche. Dog, appreciate you, man. So yeah, because we're friends. Everybody knows that we're actual friends. So sometimes it's like our life be moving so fast. I be wanting to hear what he up to. For real.
Yeah, it's likewise, man. Likewise, we'll get on the phone and we'll talk straight business, and we have to tell ourselves like, okay, as your friend, how are you doing? And that's always good, man.
Yeah. Don't tell me nothing about I want no projections. Don't tell me no projections. Don't tell me what we're looking forward to. Don't tell me no plans, no calendar invites. What's good, bro? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So today, let's get into the episode, man. We're bringing out somebody that I met. Like, okay, so online has, I don't know, relatively negative connotation these days. Could. But I found good fruit in the land of the internet, man. So today's guest is someone that I've followed on Twitter, X, just in case they out there suing, for a while now. And I'm like, yo, I like what this guy says. I like what this guy stands for. Got to have him on the show. One day I said something about raise the bar. And my dog was like, yo, what's that about? I'm like, man, I've been waiting for this opportunity to bring you in. So let me not, I know, right? So let me not hesitate to bring out my dog, Adam Tolliver, Atlanta business owner and board chair of Atlanta Smart Academy. Adam, what's good, brother?
What's up, man? What's up, Mario? What's up, 20? I really appreciate y'all having me on today, man. I'm excited to chop it up with you guys. I love what you're about, and language, storytelling, being able to kind of get to the root, but also be able to convey what you actually mean, and also understand what other people mean. I really think it's the wheels that keep the world turning the right way. I think it's necessary in business. I think it's necessary in relationships, and so I'm all about coming to a better understanding. And I feel like that's really what you guys are about, and I'm excited to see what we're going to talk about today.
My dog. Hey,
that's important, though, man. That's important, man.
Ain't it? Hey, you know another thing we gotta say, I gotta name it because we have a lot of women on the show, like black women especially specifically, and it's good. It's good to have like 3 black men able to talk about what we're gonna talk about, sit here, feel good about it, man. I actually feel really good about it. So let's get into the phrase of today. So I picked a phrase that I have heard a billion times, billion bajillion times, and it's like I get into this bag, 20 knows, I get into this bag where I'm like, no, that's cool and all, but what? Because it might not be holding, it might not hold strong. So this one that might not hold strong, even though it sounds like it holds strong. So those are my favorite / least favorite, because like you be doing numbers. So today we're going to unveil the origin, confirm the meaning, and assess the value of practice makes perfect. I need to learn where this came from and why, like, why we on it, because yeah, but like
you don't agree with it. Off the face.
I'm leaning towards not agreeing.
Okay. All right.
I'm leaning towards not agreeing with it, man. So
and then 8 bars, I'll explain that phrase.
Thank you, Kenny. We are going to first tap into how we feel. What's our connections to the phrase? I'll start. Usually when I'm in this mode, I start. Yeah. And it's that sure, right? Like practice makes perfect, sure. Like there's 3 definitions of perfect. The one that we know is like without blemish. That's gone. Like, okay, we're not talking about without blemish.
It's out the question. Yeah, you're right.
That's out the question. Yeah, like we're not talking about that. And then there's like fully mature where I'm like, okay, I can whole. Okay. But my thing, I'll put my pinky in the air to say but. I won't even put my index. But like, let's say I play ball, 20 play ball. Like, hey man, we all out there practicing, but only some of us getting better. So what are we talking about? What are we doing?
Yeah. Huh.
So that's where I'm at with it. So I'm gonna pass it to. Oh, wait.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Got a lot of buttons, Adam. Got a lot of buttons, big dog. 20. Where you at with it, man? What's your connection?
I mean, obviously, yeah. If you're part of any team growing up, you know you've heard it millions of times where coaches like, "Oh, practice makes perfect," or even teachers or even parents. It's something that you tell the youth to just keep going, keep pushing. You know, not that they're saying it so you can be perfect, because obviously, as grown men, we know that was not the case. Obviously, now as grown men, we know that really wasn't the case. That's really wasn't the end game that they wanted for you. So it's like a situation of now, I can see the importance of it, but if we're looking for truth, that ain't it. If we're looking for just truth, like, because truth is unbiased, truth is fair, truth is, you know what I'm saying? Like, but if that's what you're looking for, and you gotta, and truth is the hardest thing to accept. If you're willing to accept the truth that, practice makes perfect, if it's true or not, then you got to accept the fact that that's not true.
And that's all I have to say about that.
That's all I got to say about that.
Thank you for us. My guy. Adam, where you at with it, man? Your connection, all that stuff.
Yeah, similar to you guys, growing up playing sports, talk about getting your reps in, talk about, practice. And I, as an adult, it's funny, my relationship to the word practice is really, it's more of a, like a state of being. It's like, are you in practice? And, as a professional, so I'm in wealth management, and really in professional services, we refer to our businesses as practices. Mm-hmm. So like if you're a CPA, you've got an accounting practice. If you're an attorney, you've got a law practice. If you're in wealth management, you've got a wealth management practice. And the through line for all of those is like, it's a constant state of being. You're always practicing. Like there is no perfection. So it's almost that horizon is always moving. And that it's unattainable. So like when I think about practice, it does get a little almost meta, because I realize, so you talk about how we know that actual perfection is off the table, like off the rip, right?
Right.
But I also think about like the quality of the practice that you're doing, right? So like you can you can do a rep, you can do 10 reps, but are you focused? Are you learning from the last rep? Because that's how you actually get better at what you're doing, is the intentionality behind what you take from your practice while you're doing it. So if you're not learning from your mistakes and your failures and your victories along the way in practice, then you can't actually, because the whole point is to replicate or to prove what sustainable success looks like and make that the norm. Make it go from possible to predictable to inevitable, right? And so like you can't really do that if you're not improving with each rep of practice that you take. So I think about it like, do people know how to practice? Like you have to practice well in order to get the benefit of quote unquote perfection, which we know we can't have, but to even approach it, right? Yep. That's kind of the way I think about it.
Ooh, you should have put that Kenny. You should have put that Kenny before Adam, man. That Kenny.
I know, dog. I know. That was it right there. That was it.
No, but you know, you right out of
that was it, man.
Kobe once had I seen an interview with Kobe, man, and he kind of was like, yo, you know, I told these kids, like, yo, if you go to the line, touch the line, and do like 20 of these perfect, I'll give you all free shoes. And he said, like, by the 7-1, one kid didn't touch the line, and he was like, no, it's over. It's over now. Yeah, no shoes for nobody. You know what I'm saying? And he was explaining to the interviewer. The interviewer's like, dang, that's how you did. He's like, bro, if I allowed him to not touch that line then, when else in practice or when else in life is he's not going to touch that line? And it's like, damn, dog. You get what I'm saying? Like that's why you practice, man. So you get into that game. You're not taking the shortcut. You're not doing that, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know that. But also, when you do take shortcuts during these practices, that's what you're practicing. That's what you're going to learn. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do. That's the practice you're doing. Not to finish, but you're practicing how to finish, but not be completely done. And it's like, that's crazy.
How can I get over? How can I get over?
Exactly, man. Exactly.
And it's so funny because once you get over a little bit, you give yourself permission to try to get over again and again. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're falling short of a standard of excellence and everything because you've trained yourself to be cutting corners and getting over. And it's funny. There's man, I wish I could think of the name of the book right now. I want to say it's The Big Leap, but there's a principle in there that the author talks about with integrity and the word integrity and how it, you know, usually when people use it, we're talking about it from a moral standpoint. But it's also, integrity is also about physics, like the integrity of something. And when the integrity is compromised, the entire structure risks falling. And so he uses that to tie back to the moral, from a moral standpoint. When we think about integrity and when we compromise our own integrity, it creates a gap in our own psyche where we don't trust ourselves, and we leave ourselves open for that gap to be exploited at some point in the future. And so, like when I think about integrity, like you think about coming short of that line, it's like, can you really look at yourself and ask, like, did I do everything that I needed to do? Did I give it what I had to give? And if you can't answer that question with an affirmative, then you have shortchanged yourself, compromised your integrity, and now you don't trust yourself because you didn't do what you needed to do. And it's a really interesting way to think about it. But when you told that story about Kobe, I could go on and on about Kobe, but I've done a little bit of coaching and talked to a couple of my friends' teams who do coaching, and I try to tell them all the time, like, I don't care who you are, I don't care how good you are, how talented you are, like the best in the world, like they practice in a way that is maniacal, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so as talented as you are, like if you're not Kobe, you know what I mean? Like, as hard as Kobe worked, like Kobe was 6'7", 6'6", 6'7", He was a number 1 overall pick out of high school. He had all the talent in the world, but he practiced like he was lacking.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And it's the same thing for like the greatest, not Shaq, but like LeBron, D-Wade, Kobe. Like these dudes work. Like they work hard, incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Despite the clay that they were given, despite the natural ability that's there, they work. They on top of that, they put a ridiculous amount of practice.
Absolutely.
That's just a tangent that I think about when I think about like somebody like Kobe. Kobe probably to an unhealthy degree, but you know,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, Kobe's on the line. He's always in the red when it comes to how much you're drawing from that well. But I think that using Kobe is always, or typically good because you need that extreme understanding. You really need that extreme understanding. One of the other things before I move us is that like from professional level, like being able to touch some professional leagues with ball is like practicing like a pro. You don't even hear that until you get up there. Like they practice like a pro. Like you can't just practice. You got to practice like you're a professional. And that changes. And not every professionally paid athlete, professionally paid anything practices or it encompasses their practice, like you were saying earlier, Adam, as a professional at a certain degree that demands that your integrity is in place. And I love the structural integrity. I love that from a physics standpoint. I got to get back to it. But another thing I don't want to digress on, but I want y'all to, if y'all can store this as we keep going, as y'all are explaining that, I kind of started to defer against my own point because are they then practicing how to be a perfect like loser? All right, just hold that question and we might get back to it.
You know how these phrases do, man. Like they'll give us the foundation and the interpretation is on us. And then sometimes, man, you try to interpret it and you put an extra word in it or try to find that definition of the actual words in that phrase. It kind of turns because, like he said, man, you don't really look at it like when somebody say a practice, a type of practice. Sometimes when you hear practice makes perfect, you're thinking like get on the line, run, and all this other things to be better for a game. But as actuality, that practice can be your craft. You get what I'm saying? That practice can be
exactly.
So it's like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying now. You know what I'm saying? I can kind of see that. But then again, it's that perfect word. So we'll see how it ends up, man.
Let's get to it.
That word
gives you. Let's get to it. So, Adam, this is what we do. We typically have at least 2 definitions on hand to help us shape what the general populace, what we're supposed to understand as this. So this week, we got Merriam-Webster, the brand Merriam-Webster dictionary. They define practice makes perfect as for people to become better at something if they do it often. Okay. And then Cambridge Dictionary, which has become one of my favorites, defines practice makes perfect is to have said to encourage someone to continue to do something many times so that they will learn to do it very well. So like used to encourage someone. And then dictionary.com defines practice makes perfect as doing something over and over makes one better at it. All right. So I'll start with you, Adam. Between the 3, which one hits home the most? Any differences that you want to call out, words that stand out? And I can repeat them.
I probably that second one, doing something very well. I better and better is an interesting one from dictionary.com. But I like the second one. I also note that each of them passively acknowledge that perfect is out of the question, right?
Mm-hmm. They did.
Yeah,
yes, they did.
Yeah. So I found that interesting. But I think I like the idea of very well because that's really kind of where you have to be. And I think it's possible, depending on what you're doing, to kind of recognize and continue to break through to different levels of performance in whatever it is you're doing. So, you know, however good you are, you can always get better. And I feel like very well kind of lands in that category. Like once you're in the ethos of the elite at what you do, a lot of it is just kind of contextual and circumstantial when you're actually when you're in the practice or in the field of what you're doing.
That's real.
So
I like that. 20. Well, yeah, which one you standing with? Or
Let me
differences
know.
or whatever.
Sorry to ask, but say the first one again.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's Merriam-Webster. Merriam-Webster says it's defined as people become better at something if they do it often.
I think for once I'm gonna go with Merriam, bro, because I think that's kind of that's in the realm of tangible. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, if you do something very often, if you do something to the point where it becomes a norm to you, that eventually you're going to be better at it. Eventually you're going to be familiar with it. Eventually, it's going to come second nature to you. So that's why I feel like in that aspect, I can get behind it. I can get behind it because it's not saying that you're going to be the best at it. It's not saying that you're going to be 100% perfect at it. It's just one of those situations where it's like, yo, bro, if you continue to put in the work, you're going to get better. Now, we just talked about the whole situation with, how you putting in that work. Maybe that can be a little bit of a wrench in that, you know what I mean? Like, how are you putting in the work? They're not really mentioning how you putting in the work, but they're just saying if you put in the work, eventually you get better at something. So I don't know. I think these definitions are, I feel like that's the strongest one to make that the strongest, phrase. But in reality, both of these definitions aren't really doing the actual phrase justice, I feel like.
Here's my take. Heard you. Here's my take. Small take, actually. Cambridge's, the second one, Cambridge says, it's said to encourage someone to continue to do something. And I think that's wild. Say like it's actually used as an encouragement tactic. It's not. I don't think that's always when it's used. I don't think that's primarily.
That's what I'm saying, Mario. That's what I didn't want to interrupt you, but I don't think that's how it's used. You get what I'm saying? Like I don't think that's how it's used.
Mostly, I don't think so either. But I think it's funny that I agree. I think that sometimes people are saying it just to get you to do something. I do. Mm-hmm. I just think it's interesting that Cambridge is like, that's how we know. Like as a definition, like defined as. You know what I'm saying? Defined as just try to get somebody to do something.
But you know what? Though I think because does the phrase not exist for the purpose of motivating? I mean, like when else would it be said? Because whether you're saying it to yourself or saying it to someone else, you want them to understand that there's a standard to strive for, and the only way to get there is through practice.
Them folks at Cambridge, boy. Them folks at Cambridge, boy.
Maybe I'm taking my inner Allen Iverson, and maybe AI is really getting inside. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he's really blessed. Like I just, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is, bro. For me, maybe the answer on my back is telling me that practice.
Because it didn't motivate. Now. We'll jump into the origin here in a second, but I like where we're at now, where it's like, is it a motivational phrase? And it takes me to how we think of it sometimes. Adam is like, are you saying this to me before or after the act?
Because
that matters too. Like,
yes, and thank you for strengthening what I feel like you strengthened what I'm saying, Mario. Because like if you say it as somebody that's trying to say, oh man, that's why you don't practice. You know what I'm saying? You missed that because you don't practice. Then I feel like that's not really motivation. You get what I'm saying? Like it turns it from being a motivating thing as opposed to a scolding, as opposed to this is why type of deal. You get what I'm saying? Like I feel like that's in that form, it takes away from the motivation if you're telling somebody
but
that.
C20.
Come on, Adam, I'm here for it. Here for it.
I'm about to reference another book. It's a book called Focus.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who are motivated by being slighted or motivated by being told that they are not good. So the motivation thing is subjective as well, right?
Yep.
Now, Now the challenge though is sometimes when people are attempting to motivate, they try to motivate someone the way that they are motivated. So like I may be motivated by pleasure, by accolades, by recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to be told that I did a good job. I want everybody to know I did a good job. Someone else may be motivated by avoiding pain, by avoiding disappointment, by I don't want to be like some people love to win and some people hate to lose, right?
I want to be first,
and so
I don't want to be last. If that kind of like saying what you're saying, you get what I'm saying? Like some people that just want to be number one, and some people that just don't want to be last, and that kind of motivates them.
Right.
I get what you're saying, man.
Or just don't even want to be second, right? But like they may have the same goal. Like they may both want to be number one, but one of them is like I refuse to be second. I refuse to not be number one versus I have to be number one.
Yeah.
Like, and it seems subtle, but
it is.
when it's time to motivate that person, when it's time to move them, when it's time to get them into action, it might be the difference between what you're talking about after the fact. Somebody saying practice makes perfect. I don't think you practiced. That might make them go practice harder.
I feel you.
I like it. I like it.
Listen. I feel you.
I think
I'm a huge.
Allen Iverson's the perfect. Yeah. Allen Iverson's the perfect person. Another person. He's actually he's not the anti-Kobe in like all things, but I think specifically in this funnel, I think that they would stand on opposite ends. And I don't think Allen Iverson did not work hard. I want to make sure, because the internet will twist your shit up.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is that Allen is like, I think if I could take that, extrapolate that moment, that practice moment, which is going to be the opener, y'all. Like that's going to be the opener to this episode.
It has to be the opener, bro. It has to be.
It's like it without a doubt.
It kind of has to be.
Yeah, is that I think Allen Iverson believes that his work in game is how he gets better at games. I think like that's his thought process. Like in my ability to work hard, I apply what y'all apply in practice in the game, and that's why in games I am good. Whereas I don't think he sees the line of what I'm doing in practice turns into what I do in the game. I just don't think he believes it. Yeah. And so I would be interested to know how he's motivated, just in general. All right, we getting there. Let's I fuck with it. Let's get into the origin of this thing.
Where'd that come from?
All right. So this one is not doesn't have a lot of depth, which is why I'm glad we have Adam on here, because we are getting to like the practicality of it. Doesn't have a lot of depth. It's old. So let's go back to the 16th century, 1550s, 1560s, where it was actually use makes perfect. Direct translation from Latin, usus promptus facit. Okay, so that's like where it comes from, and that makes part is just direct translation. Use makes perfect. So before I jump to the next thing, because I think that helps convey how we got here in terms of like Adam bringing on what practice is versus what we sometimes or today think practicing is versus like using makes perfect. So like where are y'all at with like that differentiation of like use makes perfect as opposed to practice? Well, I'll tee you up. Adam, you can go ahead if you got something.
That's interesting. I'm still chewing on that.
Right.
20, you got something?
Because I'm thinking of it like it's like a situation where I'm trying to see if it changed. I feel like that changes everything about it. But then again, it's like, because it still is like, you go by your experience. I'm assuming they're saying the experience is what makes you better. Like if you
use it,
those definitions to kind of define use makes perfect. You get what I'm saying? Like those same definitions, it is kind of like saying like the experience that you're experiencing is what makes you makes you perfect for the situation.
Yeah, and you, Twani. I think you helped me kind of clarify. So like, it's funny because use is a very particular word.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, dude.
So
Like,
it's like,
whoa, bro. Like,
but it does. It's we've all playing sports. We've all had and we've experienced what people say like practice is cool, but game speed is game speed.
Game speed is game speed.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And it's very hard. It's very, very hard to replicate game speed in practice. And use feels like we in it.
AI's
You know what I mean? Like the bullets are live. We keeping score. Like let's get to it. Use feels it's got a little bit more proactivity to it, which is ironic because practice is an action.
It is an action.
But practice is an action. But use is like we in it.
Live.
Yeah. It's a different experience, and it takes me back a little bit to again knowing how to practice, right? Like we talked about that. Like so knowing how to practice makes you know how to practice, perhaps. And like I don't know. But let's take it one more step, make it a little bit more personal, I would say. So like, is there a time, and it's for either of you, is there a time where like something you were doing, like you saw the improvement just based on doing it, whether you didn't think you could improve at it or not? Is there like, do you have an example you can call to childhood, whatever, where you're like, I'm doing this, and I've all of a sudden I've improved just off the fact that I've experienced it?
Yeah, man, I could think of childhood. I could think of adulthood.
Give me one.
So I grew up playing baseball primarily. I played basketball too, but baseball was my first and true love. And it's a lot of failure in baseball, but it's also there's a certain discipline and a rhythm to it. And it's funny because I haven't played baseball in so long now that when I watch other people play baseball, I'm like, wow, I used to do that. And I look at somebody make a play and it'll look easy. And I'm like, I couldn't step out there and do that right now because I'm out of practice. I'm not using it. And even some of the movements would feel foreign to me because it's been that long since I played. And then in my professional life, so, in wealth management, I got like this string of alphabet soup behind my name from like designations and things that I've gotten. Yeah. And those are great. Like they've brought me a lot. And they helped me learn my craft and my business a lot better. But there's nothing like walking through a scenario with a client and talking to them about their situation and then having to coordinate that with like 3 or 4 other professional advisors. So like I can know everything that I need to know book wise about estate planning, but when having a conversation with an estate planning attorney about how to craft the documents and what we're putting in, what we're not putting in, how it's going to impact the family, that is how you get better, which is why that etymology use as opposed to practice I find so interesting, because all the book learning in the world can't really compare to actually putting your hands on a client and their situation, their family, and walking them through what's actually going to happen or not happen for their family if these actions are taken or not taken.
Man.
So, yeah.
Heard that. Man, look, okay. Same and similar. Oh, man. This is interesting. I'm gonna hold it because I got to synthesize this. But I'm leaning towards. Thank you, Adam. I'm leaning towards something that, like, I trained hard, right? I trained very hard. I was an undersized wide receiver before the slot era. I was very undersized, fast though, and so like, but I had to become skilled, highly skilled, to compete. And so I practiced hard, and then I got to college, and all that like showed in practice and in games. But then the way we practice changed, and even my ability, not my ability because I had access to whatever, but I trained differently, right? I trained to be more physically imposing. You develop physically, and so that shifted some of my focus on skill because I was pretty skilled, like I was ahead of the curve in terms of skill. But then I've had days where I look back and was like, man, if I would have maintained the same level of skill work I had in high school with body development work I had in college, dog, like what could have happened? You know what I'm saying? What level of preparation? And then I take that though with, if I rewind some tape and I'm like, there's nothing in practice that I could have done to make me do what I just did on that tape. There's nothing right that I could have did. So it's like, I'm in a weird place. Yes. Use is it might be the gold mine. Now let's, so my man, John Adams in 1802, in 1807, he wrote a autobiography called Diary and Autobiography of John Adams. And that's where he changed it to practice. John Adams changed it from use to practice in this thing. So let me just add a little bit of context of this. So this, in this autobiography, John Adams states that he wasn't writing this for public consumption. He wrote it for his kids. And that throughout the first section, John was writing from memory. He was like, okay, I'm just jotting this down for my kids. And then he realized that like some of this stuff could be useful if he like looked back at his old work and like just instead of recalling, like writing it down. And the irony here for me and John Adams as I researched was that he actually remains like the least known or a less known president of the founding fathers, in that some would argue that most Americans don't know much about him, if anything at all, in that he's remembered as a guy that served between Washington and Jefferson and was honest and dedicated, but career was overshadowed. Now, one thing I do want to call out about this man who changed practice from use to practice, and we can explore that, is that his take on slavery. Because every time I get on this show and we get down to the years and we be like, all right, what's going on? Mm-hmm. I got to make sure we. So John Adams never owned a slave. He did not rock with the principle of slave labor. So at least on record. And he said that my whole life, I held the practice of slavery in such an abhorrence that I've never owned a Negro or any other type of slave. I have lived many years in time where the practice was not disgraceful, when the best men in the vicinity thoughtfully and not inconsistent with their character, and when it has cost me thousands of dollars for the labor and subsistence of free men, which I might have saved by the purchase of Negroes at times when they were very cheap. Now he's talking in his time, but he's saying it was a practice that he wasn't rocking with. The practice of slavery is what he called it. So like, just, you know what I'm saying? And he actually was one of the first people to put slaves in suits in public, in their garb. So this is the guy that changed it from use to practice. Any thoughts here? Like what, and based on the type of guy he is, I was trying to connect it, man. So I'm bringing it to y'all because I was trying to make this connection. I was typing things up like, why did you do that, John Adams? And the best I could come up with, like, of that, he considered slavery a practice. So I don't know. Where you at? Help me out.
Nah, man. I mean, you got to put it back in the time frame too as well. You know me, Mario. Like whatever time frame, either you was a part of it or you turned your head from it. It wasn't that you stopped it. Either you was a part of it or you turned your head from it. I mean, bro, but realistically, they looked at it as a business. You feel me? So I can get what you mean by, you know, if it's a practice or not, because that was like number one commerce back then. To be honest with you, like other than like goods. Well,
it was the.
Well, they were looking at them as goods as well. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, damn, dude.
That's what I'm saying. So like,
fucking phrase right now.
That's what I'm saying. Like one, of course, like slavery found its way into the phrase, and two, I think from like how I started the show, when he changed it to practice, he meant what Adam was talking about.
I think that's kind of like what
it's not practicing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's his version of use, like using slaves, the practice of slavery, using slaves. Am I reaching?
I don't think you're reaching, Mario, because if you look at it like this, like let's go back to athletics. You know what I mean? Like your rookie year, what you're doing is you are in practice becoming a professional. By the third year, fourth year, you already know how practice is going to go. You already know how the game days are going to go. You already know how like traveling is going to go. You already know how pretty much the year is going to go. That's why a lot of these older heads, they don't do the camps. They don't do this because they're already so toned in to what's going on, and they know how it's going to go down to the point where it's like, yeah, all those usage coming up in their career has got them in the moment where it's like, man, nothing's going to change, especially if you have something that hasn't changed. So it's like, yeah,
right.
See why a lot of these guys are opting out of these practices, opting out of these things, because they've already been through it so many times to the point where it's like, hey, bro, like me doing this is not going to change because I already know what's going on. I'm already embedded in what's
I know what that is.
I know what that is. You're not coming with nothing new for me right now. The majority of this is for the new.
Now I'm pinpointing. Because before, again, as we started the show, I was pinpointing the word perfect. Now, my in the crosshairs is the word practice.
I was just about to ask you what's the definition of practice, or what are the definitions?
Yeah, and I didn't do that. I'm asleep. I'm usually on top of it, but let me look it up real quick because it's got to be multiple, obviously, because there's the practice of and being at practice, like the noun, oh man, hold on.
Yeah, bro.
It's a noun and a verb.
Yep. So the noun, the actual application or use of an idea, belief, or method. That's one of the nouns. The other noun is the customary, habitual, expected procedure, which is kind of what 20 was talking about in terms of like I go to practice, or I'm skipping out on training camp because I know that habit. I know what the custom is. I know what the procedure is. It's expected. The verb is to perform an activity or exercise repeatedly or regularly in order to improve or to carry out or perform a particular activity. So that's where I'm at. The second one, to carry out, right, is like just being there to me. Like when you say like to carry it out, is like I'm just there. And that's what I believe most people, purely anecdotal, most people believe practice is. I'm just there.
It's a thing I got to do between now and game day, or now and the real show, or whatever you're practicing.
Yeah. Like a violin, keyboard, like your speech, like all of it is just like I don't think it's considered the action. I do not think I will go on record and say I do not think people think that practice the verb. They use number one. I think they use number two. Practice the thing to do, not the actual act of the skill. I don't think they use practice as the action of the skill. And I think the reason why, folks like Kobe are nuts is because they're doing a thing that, Adam, you spoke to. They're trying to create the game day feel in a thing that you almost cannot do. So like you have to come outside your damn head to create a scenario that has someone who is competing against, like you're creating your own competition. Like you have to create an adversary. You have to create an environment. You have to all of that in that place.
You have to pretend like you know what's going to happen in the game and try and
try to replicate that. Again, all these things are not the use,
right?
But they are the use.
Damn, what else you got, bro? That's dope. I ain't gonna lie, this is
that's crazy. All right. No. Before we move, two more things. I got you. This is great. I want to put it back in our hands, and you can use it whatever way you want to now. But ignorance is bliss in the sense that now that we know, we can't unknow. Share some ideas or things from either your personal life or careers where like using the thing, practicing is like, yo, this one's gonna do you good. Y'all got something for the people? Either one of you, something
like what?
Regular. I would say the practice of gratitude, very, very high on my list, and then the practice of consistency.
Yes.
For me, those are, so gratitude, I'll start there. in the sense that our conditions are very fragile, and there are things that we cannot control. Going what Twani said at the beginning, control what you can control, but there are things, elements, events, people in our life. There's so many elements that we cannot control, and our conditions can change due to something that has nothing to do with us directly, but they can change permanently and swiftly. And so I'm constantly doing my best to practice gratitude and be grateful for where I am, what I have, who I've lost, what I don't have, like just assuming an attitude of gratitude at all times. So that's a big one for me. And then consistency, another phrase, I have no idea where it came from, but I know my mentor said it to me a few years ago. He said things happen slowly and then suddenly.
I gotta add it.
And that for me is about consistency. It's about like the day-to-day, the mundane, like keep chopping wood, keep stacking your cards one at a time. And I've seen the snowball effect. I've seen it in the positive and the negative. And so, going back to what I do for a living in wealth management, the most successful people I know are those that started early and stayed consistent. And they look up one day and things happen to be going all right. And so the practice of consistency pays huge dividends. Huge.
Man. Can't say it no better. We got, they standing up for that. All right, man. Okay. What you got, 20? Hell yeah. Yeah.
No, I would say, just to piggyback off of Adam, just like practicing, like I said, how to pretty much move a little bit more now that, everything that I thought that I was going to do or had in my life, it's not, I want to say not there, but everything that I normally put, in the forefront, I had to find something else to replace it with. And like I said, that came in thinking that I've already had control over that. And then once I realized that it wasn't, now I can put other things in that spot that, I wouldn't feel a certain way if I didn't have control over it, if that makes sense to you guys. I feel like just the whole thing about...
So practicing like controlling the controllables?
Yes.
Or even identifying them?
Or even identifying, bro. Because a lot of people can't really identify, because everything that you put in your life, if you put it there, it's tangible to you. But that doesn't mean that you can control it. So identifying, knowing what you can control and what you can't control, I honestly, that's the biggest thing that I'm practicing right now. To kind of go in a more of a lighter sense, I feel like, the things that we're doing with our brand and our show, the practice that we put in it, as opposed to, I would say, the usage, I'll use that more as opposed to practice, because even now, the things that we do now are, 10 times better from what we did season 1 or season 2. So right. It didn't seem like it was something that was more of a drastic change. Every little change that we made was more, I feel like they weren't noticeable only to us. Like they were noticeable to us, but to like the common public, like I don't think you can really notice the changes that me and Mario had to make personally to make this show a little bit better. So, I mean, it's those little subtle movements, subtle changes that you gotta be able to identify to be able to make things a little bit better. So I would say that's what I'm practicing on, to being able to identify those little changes that everybody gotta kind of evolve in to make, their lives better as they get older.
Yeah. As things get older, as things progress. Word, I appreciate that, man. I'll jump in. I won't want to ask you to do something that I won't do. I think, you both took 4 of the ones that I'm with. I think, I was going to use the word mastering, but like the practice of what this is going to be so wordy, which is stereotypical, of like lack of risk aversion, like being able to identify a quality risk is, I think, a worthwhile risk. Some would call them opportunities, but like being able to identify that and act on it is something that you have to be in practice of. Right. You have to, because you're not going to do it every time based on circumstance alone. Like circumstances, and I try to tell people when they're listening, like, do not do things based on circumstances that are core to you, because your circumstances are guaranteed to change. So like you're going to regret not doing something based on circumstances if it's a core part of you, because that itch never going to go away. And now you're going to have to look for it again. Because of that is the reality that people do make decisions based on circumstances. Get good, continue to practice at identifying quality risks to take, so that if you miss one, you're not stewing over a miss, that you can see the next one and take advantage of it and maximize and mishandle it. Because then you got to identify them and then act on it and then figure out how to. So like that's one of the, I think that out of all the things, you know, outside of like the external supports and stuff like that, that's been a driving force in my life. It's like, man, I can see that risk. It's worth it. And I can go, and now I do it. I handle it well. So I would, especially young people. I think young people, if you can find risks that are worthwhile, worth the taking to get you. I was talking to somebody and I was saying like you feel quantum leaps, like you said that you know, slowly but suddenly, like it feels like a quantum leap all of a sudden. How did I get all the way over here?
Yep.
And it's because you just maintain.
Kept at it. Yeah.
So, word. Let's take it lighter real quick before we get out of here. Practice makes perfect across the globe. So there was a few I found. A lot of people say this, and they say it as practice makes perfect because the Latin language was big, and people was just like, I'll take what the Latin folks say, the Latin language says. But a few other countries have interesting ones, so I'm gonna shout them out. So we got the Filipino one. The Filipinas, they say, when there's perseverance, there is stew. Now, I like it. They mix things up there. I like it though, because stew is not easy to make.
No, it's not.
It certainly is not. The Dutch say practice gives birth to art. So they kept it whimsical. Okay. The French say it is by forging that one becomes a blacksmith. So just do the thing and you're the thing. Yeah. Do the thing and you're the thing. Yeah. The French also say it is by blowing one's nose that you become a midge. I don't know what a midge is.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means, French. Like, pick one. Pick one. The Indonesians say we can do it well because we usually do it. I rock with that.
I like that.
I like that.
They also say, I represent Queens. She was raised out of Brooklyn. Did they finish that off with saying, I represent Queens?
If Big Ellie ran into the Indonesian practice makes perfect, I can see it. Now, real quick, if y'all got something for me, because give me y'all are a country, the country of Adam, the country of 20. What's y'all's practice makes perfect version? It can be something you're passionate about. It can be something you just like. Come up with something. Come on, dog.
Hey, listen.
20, I got to make you go first.
Yeah, I got you. You know, I got one. I already got one, bro. I say this all the time, but I say it as a riff on people, but I tell them, you can't live and be afraid of death. Like, you can't live and be afraid of death, bro. Like, you get what I'm saying? You can't truly live.
The only way to live is to live.
Of death. You know what I'm saying? The only way to live is to actually, like, get out and live. You feel me? So, I know it's... I would say that would be my country's practice makes perfect type of deal.
Live to live. Heard that. What you got, Adam?
I would say worry is a misuse of the imagination.
Ooh. So I have to write that down, man.
It's just, you know, if you can imagine the worst outcome, then you can imagine a better outcome, and you can imagine a solution to whatever you're going through. That's so. If we're gonna use our imagination for something, let's be constructive. That's, you know, and that's, you know, everybody got negative self-talk. Everybody, you know, we all got to battle it, but whenever I find myself kind of spiraling in that way, I return to that phrase, worry is a misuse of the imagination, and I identify like what can I do? What do I need to do to shift my energy and my focus to focus on solving the problem?
My guy. Man. Yo, okay. This is great. I appreciate it. Let's do one. We have to do two more things. One is a must. The other is a must. So two things. Let's appraise the phrase, man. So we're going to grade it up. This is how we do it, Adam. It's a 3-part grading scale. Power, impact. When you hear it, when it's said, does it move the needle just off the strength of hearing it? 2, the speed. Is it eloquent? Is it easy to say? Does it flow? Is that why it's, you know what I'm saying, strong? Mm-hmm. And then we got your guest rating. However you want to grade it, for whatever reason, doesn't matter. It could just be purely petty. It's the A through F scale, pluses and minuses, A being the best, F being the worst. I'm going to commit to 20 doing the power grade because he been on a roll lately, as in the last 4 seasons. So power grade 20. Let's go.
Oh, man. I hesitate because personally I don't want to give it an A, but I cannot not give it an A. If I'm going with truth wise, that's different. But since it's power, it has the longevity, it has the popularity, and it's still used to this day. You know what I mean? Like you can go out on any field or any field of practice, and you can kind of how you will hear it. You hear somebody saying, "Hey, man, practice makes perfect. Let's go ahead and get it done." So I'm gonna give it an A, man. I'm gonna give it a solid A, not an A+, only because of my petty reasons. But I'm gonna give it a solid A, man, because it's undeniable, man. You like I said, it was back 1560, I think it was where it started. You said like
1560, yep.
Yeah, around the 16th century. Yep. So it's like you got that, and then you have one form of change to it, which is still used to this day in the 1800s. So it's like you can't really take away from the power of it. So I give it an A.
Gotcha. All right, I'm gonna handle the speed, man. Another alliteration king. Practice makes perfect. When you get alliteration going, and it's the 3. I think it's the rule of 3 here. 3 words gets you. It's magnetic. It makes you feel comfortable saying it. And I have this thing, even though it's like not all the way to speed as far as eloquence, but I think part of not stumbling over words is like how one feels about the words that you're saying. And I feel like perfect is one of those words that, regardless of how much it strains us in our personal lives, feels good to say. Mm-hmm. So I'm giving it an A+. I think it hits all the cylinders in terms of like, can be said.
You know, perfect is kind of like Christmas, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what it is, but yet it's still good to say it. You get what I'm saying? Like you know what the actual premise of it is. Like, you know what it is. Like, you know there's no reaching perfection, but yet it's still the top dog. You know what I'm saying?
Perfect still stands. Adam, all things considered, what you got?
All things considered, I'm gonna give it an A, and the only reason I'm not gonna give it an A+, I think maybe kind of agreeing with 20, and then also you're right. Everything you said about like the speed, the alliteration, like that's a great grade. But I'm verbose, and I ask a lot of questions, and I'm like, why? Like what? Like so? Like I don't know that enough people get. When they hear practice makes perfect, I don't think they get the full story.
Right.
And so that's the only reason, it's good because it's punchy, it's simple, it's to the point. But I think that we could all benefit from practicing better.
Right.
Hey.
So.
All right.
Yeah. It used to be like take it and shut up. Now,
seriously. Like that's where I think Cambridge was at.
Now it's like, but does it? You know what I'm saying? Like this doesn't show the fact. Like now, like back in the day, practice makes perfect. All right, let me go ahead and practice. Now you say that to somebody, and somebody be like, actually, I'm pretty good without practice.
Like I'm. And use would say so if we're not talking about practice, just the the customary thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got one more thing. I'm tossing it to you, 20 for
the dictionary of misinformation.
Hit it one more time, Mario. Hit it one more time. I'm going to have to have you go back to back.
The dictionary of misinformation.
I'm going to know Diddy that too as well. So what we're going to do right now, Adam, is we're going to go to our dictionary of misinformation. This is a book that me and Mario found. I'm just putting my co-foundership on it. It's called the Dictionary of Misinformation, and it just gives us different.
We were together.
Yeah. That's why I say I'm gonna put that co-founder stamp on there. It gives us information that we've probably been misinformed about, and then what we do is we ask our guests to give us a letter in the alphabet other than X, because X is already taken up. But you can go from A through Z and give us a letter, and we're gonna find some information about that letter. Now, this is one of those practice makes perfect things, so you can't argue with us afterwards. You just gonna have to listen to the information that we're giving you and take it for what it's worth. And we're gonna close the show because
it's from the book, not our minds.
It's not us. It's from the book. All right. Okay. So just
all right. I'm gonna go with the letter W.
Oh, I like that. You know what? Honestly, the first 5 and the last 5 are always the last ones to be picked for some reason. Like in alphabet, for some reason, if you give somebody a chance to pick out of all 26, they'll pick the middle instead of the first or the last 5. I wonder why that too as well. I don't know. No one rarely picks A. A is probably the least picked thing.
It is. It really is. I like, W got a few. This is kind of cool. We never get it. Got a few. No. Sorry.
Sometimes Mario likes to be suspenseful. He'll read it and then like usually he'll read it, enjoy it for himself, and then pick another one.
Correct. It's happening in real time. I've practiced. All right, I'm gonna go back to whatever the other shit. Yeah. Okay. I found one I think I'm gonna do. Sorry about this, fellas. I'm just very interested in W. God damn it. Okay. Water as a liquid. Water as a liquid. What are they gonna tell us about this? God damn it. Right? So it's not always a liquid. Water is. It's just as much a solid as ice or snow or a gas, steam, water, vapor as it is a liquid. And it has, incidentally, the extraordinary characteristic only bismuth shares it, of being less dense as a solid than as a liquid, which is a good thing. Otherwise, ice in times of freeze would sink to the bottom of every lake or stream, and the resultant flooding would be almost beyond imagination. So that's something that we know. Correct. So water is not always a liquid, obviously, because of ice, snow, and gas, but also when it is a solid, it is less dense than when it is a liquid. So like we can't always, because it's still water. Like I guess they're saying,
which makes sense because ice does float in water.
Yeah. So water is just itself. Water is what we have to do.
Water is also not wet.
And water is not wet. Water makes things wet.
Water makes things wet, but it is not wet.
It itself is not wet.
What water touches is wet.
Correct. Man.
Be water, my friend.
All right, y'all. All right, y'all. Adam, man, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to leave the people with? Anything you want to prop up platform before we get out of here?
No, man. Yeah, I appreciate y'all having me. If I'm gonna leave people with anything, like, be good people, be good to yourself, be good to your people, be good to the people around you. That's all I got.
My dog. Ooh. 20, what you got for
I like that one, Adam. I'm gonna have to let you finish off on that one, man. That's really what it's about, man. Like, you got so many things in your life that you take for granted. Just sit back sometime and give the flowers to everything that you got going on in your life, man. Whether it's a petal or if it's a whole goddamn bouquet, you feel me? Just give it out, man. Give it out. You'd be surprised how much you get in return.
Man.
Hell
blessings.
Yeah.
Blessings as well. For me, all I have left to say is that you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube for the visuals. We're brought to you by the Underdog Podcast Network. Shout out to Chris and them. Appreciate you as always. Go to appraisethephrase.com for current episodes, digital partner content, appraisethephrase.com/shop for all the new merch dropping. And last but not least, always remember that value is in the eye of the appraiser. We will catch y'all next week.
Yeah, like.